Eddie Van Noy!
Eddie what's up?
Welcome back to Andertons TV.
Hola.
Today's video, we're looking at some pedals from TC Electronic from their AmpWorx range.
Yes. 3 new ones.
3 pedals that we've not tried before, based on some higher gain, super famous higher gain amplifiers, and we're going to have a revisit. Now, before we get into these,
housekeeping.
Yes, please like and subscribe to this channel. You might win something every time we hit 10,000 new subscribers. We pull a name out of a hat and
Just a hat.
give stuff away. Yeah, it's a
I always get a rabbit. I was
now.
like, oh, it's a rabbit again. Oh, another rabbit. Oh, God's sake.
There are timestamps below, so if you want to fast forward to see one of these other pedals, use those. And if you'd like to treat yourself to some Andertons merch, again, links are below.
And if you want to follow Lee on Instagram, he's on here as well. And if you follow me, don't do that, because I'll wear purple Crocs.
Right. So the point of the AmpWorx range is to essentially replace your guitar amplifier. Maybe you got a little pedal board, maybe you need to record it, maybe you want to just run some headphones in it.
Strong statement.
Maybe it's even live, you just want to give the sound man a feed, so you'd have to mic up your amplifier. That's what these are designed to do.
That's a strong statement.
Yeah,
I keep saying that.
Hyper affordable, so all 6 of these are around about the £120 mark.
That's not bad. But it's only 1 amp each, right?
1
We're
amp
not
each,
talking like,
but different modes within each, or different channels if you like.
So a bit like the universal audio thing, but just a fraction of the price.
Well, pretty much a third of the price.
Third of the price.
Anyway,
Third of the price.
So we're going to start with the Jim's 800. Jim being Jim Marshall, 800 referring to JCM 800.
Really?
Probably the first truly kind of purpose-built higher gain amplifier from Marshall. So if you go back prior to JCM 800, a lot of that gain was coming from just cranking the whole thing, getting power amp overdrive, or they were modded by different sort of, amp tech guys. But yeah, JCM 800.
What did the 1970 89-7 come out?
The 1959 was the Super Lead, 100 watt
Yeah,
Super
and
Lead.
that was before that one, wasn't it? So
That
there
was
were some
before that.
modded things before Marshall did some. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm excited about
again,
this.
if you think about all of those kind of heavy rock and metal bands from the 1980s, basically JCM 800 was probably the amp that they were using.
Yeah, it's a great amp.
Now, I'm going to just quickly overview a couple of features that will be common across every single one of these. So each pedal has 2 buttons. On all but one of them, those 2 buttons are channel and boost. So the Combo Deluxe 65 is the only one that has channel and reverb.
Yeah.
I love the intuitive nature of this, all right? So each pedal has 2 channels, a green and a red. It will simply remember the last setting that you're on. So if you want to dial in a cleaner sound for the green channel, as soon as you then go over to the red channel, it will just remember what those sounds were. And then you can have a higher gain setting, if you like, for your red channel. And again, it will just remember those.
It's got better memory than me.
Bear in mind that the knobs settings on these will only be for whatever channel you adjusted last.
It doesn't move. It's not motorized.
That's right.
Knobs.
Boost is a separate feature. Sometimes the boost control is one of the 6 knobs on the top. Sometimes the boost, let me find one like that. Sometimes the boost, like on this DC30, is actually a little mini control on the back. We're going guitar into a mini tube screamer, into the pedal, into the AmpWorx pedal, and then got 2 outputs here that we're going to demonstrate for you today. A cabinet emulated output using a proper IR. I think it's an official Celestion IR on each of these from memory. That's going to come out, go into our little Hall of Fame reverb and into our interface, so you're hearing the DI'd sound of that. The cabinet emulation also works on the headphone socket, but bear in mind you'd have to put the reverb in before if you wanted the reverb to come out the headphones. And then the other output is a non-cabinet emulated DI, and what we've done is plug that into a power amp input, so effect, like an effects return essentially on a little Boss Katana Mark II here. And that'll, I guess, if you've got a Katana or something with a a power amp input or an effects return, and you just want to change the preamp on it, you could use one of these pedals. No MIDI. USB is just here for doing firmware updates, which is really important there.
Sorry.
One of the reasons we held off of doing the 3 high gain pedals, despite the fact that they were announced maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, was we got told that there was a firmware update coming for all 6 of these.
Yeah.
So we've waited until we've had the firmware update. So we are on the 4th of September today. So all 6 of these have the new firmware update. If you've watched a video of these pedals prior to the 4th of September, chances are you're hearing them with the older firmware update. And it's quite important because the main thing that the firmware update has done to all of these is improve or at least in my opinion, I think it's improved the impulse response. So the speaker emulation part of it. Right, enough talking. Mr. Pete, let's start with our green channel, which I have previously stored as a kind of edge of breakup tone, and we've got a little bit of reverb from the Hall of Fame.
We're listening to some Genelec speakers in here, just so you know. Sounds good.
I think it's fine. So JCM 800 was characteristically
stuck in the room, but you know, hey, you can't.
Although, you speaking of 412s, well done, Mr. Pete, because I did see somewhere. Yeah, so we have now a G12 65 loaded 412. It's the official. It's an official Celestion
there you go.
IR. We've got a presence control on the back here, which I've just left at 12 o'clock. And it's, according to this, the actual JCM 800 that they used to sort of recreate, I believe somewhere has
a model, isn't it? It must be like a model of it.
It's like a modded version of it. Highly sought after custom shop modifications typically found from the legendary amp builders of the 80s, including treble bleed, tone stack tweaks, and second stage gain mods.
Yum, yum.
Right, so if I hit this channel button, it's going to go over to, again, another sound. I think actually where the knobs are now is what I set the red one to be.
Okay.
It's got that floaty. We've got an internal boost here, which on the back can be switched to either be a gain boost, so in other words, it's going to give us more saturation, or it can be switched to a post gain boost, which will just give us more volume. So we're at pre-gain.
It's rock and roll, man.
I've got the Tube Screamer here. Now, again, I can see why the Tube Screamer has become so popular with these higher gain pedals here, because the more gain you get, particularly at volume, the more the bass end goes a bit like whoop whoop, and the Tube Screamer does a great job of kind of tightening that up. So let's have a little listen. I'm fairly sure we critiqued this on the first video with these 3 in here. The pedals don't have an effects loop, which I kind of feel is a bit of a shame, because although when you're using the setup that we've got, which is not any normal pedals in front, you could have whatever you want in front.
Your whole pedal board.
That's fine. The input takes pedals fine.
Yeah.
the only way to put sort of post-gain effects on, like reverb or delay, is to just come out of the cab sim into here.
Yeah.
Which again, in terms of does it work, it's completely fine. But where it then becomes annoying, or at least for me anyway, is what it means is if I want to use this how I'm using it now, where I'm actually using the cab simulated output and the non-cab simulated output. So I want some monitoring on stage or whatever, or the headphone output. This reverb is only going to be applied to whichever one of those three kind of outputs I use. I imagine for headphones, because of stereo cables and stuff, it's going to be a real pain in the ass to try and get reverb out of the headphone socket.
Yeah, so three reverb pedals.
Yeah, so that's kind of a bit annoying. But so bear that in mind if you're going to go down this route, that there's no effects loop. So,
but at this price, you don't get an effects loop on the Universal Audio either. So,
do you not?
No.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you got to remember these are 120 quid. Pete and I, we had when we first started this, we had an Origin tube screamer and a Strymon reverb, and I just went to Pete. Hang on a second, we've got the two pedals we're using here and here are like 6 times.
I still have a cheap Les Paul, but that doesn't matter.
So that's our JCM 800 sounding amplifier. Again, you got to admire and like how simple TC have made these tubes. Yeah. Shall we try it into the Katana? So what we can do now is we can mute our DI signal.
And I'll turn this on here.
Yep, so we're using the 50 watt mode into the power amp input. Okay, so again, we'll just do the same thing again. Oh, now that, of course, the reverb now won't work. Exactly. The reverb's not going into the amp.
Does that work for the amp, though?
No, I already tried that.
There you go.
It would, in all fairness, some amps, if you use the effects return, the reverb will work, but on the Katana, the power amp in doesn't.
But you would kind of have a FR cap. That's maybe some FR caps have reverb built into them. The line 6
or to be fair, I could just literally repatch this with the reverb before going into there.
You could.
But we're not going to.
You could, no.
Anyway,
let's go. It's fun.
It's quite a different sensation again when you're sitting in the room, because you've got a little 12-inch speaker in a combo versus two little, what are they, like 8-inch drivers in there.
Yeah.
I think in the room I quite like it with the
because it's the association with an amp behind you and all that stuff. So, you know what I also like with 12 inches? My pizzas. I think there might be a little bit too much gain on it now. Funny. It feels like it's a bit fissier in coming out of this.
It needs to be voiced differently into a combo, doesn't it?
So let's see. It does. I'll go on the neck pickup. Definitely a different sensation with that speaker in here, isn't it?
Sounds good.
It's there's nothing like that for it.
Yeah, look, there we go. So that's the Jim's 800. Links, if you want to buy any of these, will be in the description below. But now I think we will move on to...
Nothing,
do you know
but
what we
metal.
should try and do is, chronologically... Oh, we're going to test my knowledge there. So which came first then, Dual Rec or 5150?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? I think, isn't it Dual Rec?
Let's just guess, and then the comment section...
I think it's Dual Rectifier.
I think it's a Dual Rectifier.
I think he did.
Oh no! You know what? Now I don't know.
So when is he? So when was the first?
I tell you what. You go Dual Rectifier. I'll go 5150.
Do you know what? I actually.
No, and then that way one of us has to be right.
You know.
Right. Same idea. Okay. So again, we've got channel. What's on the back of this? Is that presence again? Yeah, presence again at the back. That's halfway. Boost is set to be a pre-boost. Interestingly, okay. So the Dual Rec doesn't now have All right, so the dual rec doesn't have a boost control. So all 6 knobs on here are to do with the basic tone and gain structure of the main amp, and then boost must just be a preset amount of boost that you're dialing in. Obviously, all the other features in terms of headphone output and all that kind of stuff is the same. So we're back into the DI, and I've got it. I've just literally set this sound up. So where you're seeing the knobs now, that is what you're hearing.
I love a dual rectifier, man. Honestly, it's one of the best amps ever made, in my opinion. In my opinion,
yes, the dual rec really was pigeonholed when Boogie bought it out with that
the metal
kick
tread plate
on it. Everybody just went, "Oh, it's a metal amplifier."
Yeah.
And it really did have one of the most fabulous kind of clean sounds.
It's immediate attack. You know, I used one when I did the Tom Jones. I used a Roadster.
Right.
And it had a black tread plate on its front. I had it just like black leather on it, and it's the best sounding and most attacking.
This was
funky
so
amp.
dual rectifier was was one of those big 6L6 loaded.
Yeah.
So it had a much fatter bass end than something like a JCM 800.
That's why I think that came after. Anyway, whatever. Let's have a listen. Here's a G chord on the neck pickup. See, it's much faster, isn't it? It's almost like a clean sound. It is a clean sound. It's like a blues thing.
Okay, should have read the manual because this actually tells us when the dual rec came out. So the dual rec. No, I tell a lie. This is revision G of the dual rec from 1995. It was definitely out before 1995.
Yeah.
But this is revision G. Now, this is where I should do my research before.
No.
The green and the red channel now on the dual rec are actually voiced differently. So the Jim's one, the green, and we'll just get brain in gear here. Yeah, so the Jim's one, basically the 2 channels are wherever you set the knobs. So if you had both channels the same, they would sound the same. The dual rectifier, actually, the green channel will just do your clean sounds and the red channel will do the heavier tones. The boost is a 5 dB boost. And what is the cab simulation here? The cab simulation is a Celestion 412 V30 loaded Celestion IR. There we are. I think that's basically all we need to know here. So that's why we're getting these much fatter clean tones out of the green channel. So,
do you remember the little mini rectifier?
Yes.
I used that on the Helena Fisher tour.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds amazing. And then the little Transatlantic 15.
That was
2 cabs, boom, boom.
Yeah, some good stuff. Boogie have always made good amps, haven't they?
Then I had to give them back because they're There we go. It's not what you expect from a dual rectifier because it's just like on the edge of breakup.
As soon as they put that kick plate on there, and all of a sudden the whole sort of Metallica, Foo Fighters, all that kind of stuff, everyone just went, "Oh right, it's a metal amplifier, is it?"
Yeah.
And then that's what it just became known as.
He was doing Roasters 2x12s.
Who was?
Dave Grohl.
Right.
Yeah, the combos.
Cool.
You could lift one. Jesus.
Right. So let's. Have we had enough of the clean channel?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Fine.
Dirty.
Gain.
Way more gain than the
Jim's 800.
I would
take the gain down a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Bit of boost.
Always too much gain. We always put too much gain on. Was that
Bit
the
of
tube
tube
screamer?
screamer, yeah.
That sounds great. I like that. I like that. That's my favourite so far.
Cool. Let's mute the DI, see what it does to our little katana.
Oh! Right, here we go.
Clean. So again, I think it's always worth kind of re-voicing this for when you're going through a different set of speakers or a different vibe.
Give it a bit more of the gain front end. Just get the gain up a bit. It's a little bit fishy-ishy in here. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, it sounds good, but it's just something, you know, it's not a dual rectifier with the 4x12
well, that's true.
Mesa Boogie Cat.
What would a dual rec with a 412 cost you nowadays? 4 grand?
I sold mine for like 1,500 quid for the head.
4 grand, 120 pounds.
500 pounds I sold my 412 Mesa Boogie Cat for.
Yeah, but how many years ago was that?
With a flight case.
Oh yeah, that was a mistake, wasn't it?
It was such a mistake.
That's like at least 1,500 quid these days, isn't it? Right,
man,
okay.
It sounded so good.
Let's
punch you right in the gonads, man. It was the best amp ever.
Move on. 5150. This particular pedal here, designed or based on the Mark I script logo, 5150 from 1992, meaning we have actually can now confirm that Pete Honore has guessed correctly, or perhaps it wasn't a guess.
It wasn't
the
a guess.
Original dual rec came out in 91.
Yeah,
so
I thought it was like 89 they started working on it, but I might be wrong. I think I can still remember something.
Yeah.
The cap clone didn't wipe it all away.
Anyway, so we now, so 2 channels with independent gain and control. Let's see. So same idea again on the 5150. The 2 channels, the green is the lower gain one and the red is the higher gain one.
Yep.
Same idea, 5 dB booster that you can't adjust, and the DI, the emulated DI on this is based on a Celestion 412 G12M Heritage. Right, let's start with the green channel on a kind of a, now we've got normal EQ, we've got the famous sort of resonance control that was on that 5150, and as Pete said, we're hearing this back through the DI, so we've got a little bit of reverb again. What does the green channel sound like?
What's the resonant? Is that like fatness?
Yeah, like the idea of...
so it's like depth on the Soldano. When does the Soldano come out then?
That's true. I think the original idea was that the resonance control was designed to give you this bottom end boost that should find the resonant frequency of your 412 cabinet. And when you found it, like all of a sudden the 412 just sort of went, whoa!
Just grab you right by the
yeah, it was
nuts.
a big sounding amplifier.
It's a bit like, you know what I wish they would do, man? I wish they would make a single rectifier, like 30 watts, like the Soldano, and bring it out again. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, there used to be a single rectifier.
Yeah, a single rectifier was just...
Do you remember the triple rectifier?
Only 50, yeah. I know.
150. Anyway, come on.
It's a similar clean.
That's my favourite clean so far. Oh, yes. That's a good sound.
All of a sudden there.
Yeah.
All the other 2 can just...
Yeah, I like the...
That's a great sound on it. That's a good sound.
That is a good sound.
That's just a boost.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't mind that.
No, I don't mind that at all. Sorry, I'm going red channel.
I don't know why I did that, because that's so silly.
That was full eruption mode. Okay, so
I erupted, baby.
Quickly, let's just this into the DI, hear what it sounds like into the... This is my favourite one so far.
Yeah, I have erupted.
You have.
Yeah, turn it down a bit. That's still my favourite in there as well. It's a bit fizz, isn't it? Bit fizz, Della fizz. It's still a little fizz.
Yeah, do you know what? Bizarrely, I thought the dual rec sounded better into the Katana.
Yes, I agree.
And the 51 or 550.
It's 550, it's not the 50.
I thought that was the best sounding into the DI. But
what is that? That's like the David Bowie thing you had on the face, remember?
Was he another famous 5150 user?
Absolutely.
I don't think so. Okay.
That's my favourite so far.
Right. They're the three ones that we've not tried yet. Now we're just going to quickly revisit what the updates have done to the original ones. Okay, so Jim's 45. This one, again, we're back in Marshall territory again, looking at a 1965 JTM 45. Mm-hmm. I'm just reading the description from the website here, and I may have got this whole green and red channel thing. I was under the impression that essentially the two colours were the same basic voice, and it just recalled wherever the knobs were, but it actually would appear that the basic underlying sort of tuning, if you like, or the character of the green and the red channels are different on
it's like jumping the signal.
Yeah, so it does still remember where you left it, but the basic underlying tone is different. Anyway,
I never remember
so the key difference between this and the original version, or what the firmware did, was improve the IR. So we're using a 412 G12M creamback.
Okay, creamback, interesting. Now, that's more like Friedman would do.
Yeah, so JTM 45, if you remember, this is going back to the old sort of pre-channel switching days where you'd have one input that would do a normal, kind of slightly darker tone, and the other input would be called high, and that would be a more trebly tone, or you could combine the two. This is what we've got here, is essentially a combined version of the two. So here is my green channel on a kind of a clean, again, JTM 45 doesn't get enough credit, or I think it perhaps, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, it's started to get some credit for how good a clean sound it was, but back in the day, everyone just went, oh, it's a cranked tone. I think
people have been tweaking it a bit as well, you know, because an original JMT4, it was different. Now people are starting to tweak it a bit, like the new studio one, where they go, oh, put everything at 12 and it's got a good sound. Anyway.
But think of this as a classic 60s, you know, sort of like a Eric Clapton-y kind of cranked to bejeebers type sound, you know.
That's nice and fat now.
That's a great sound.
barks a bit at you.
I just think, again, if you've bought one of these pedals within the first 2 or 3 months of them coming out, chances are you've got one that will have the original firmware loaded on it from the factory. So please just plug it into your computer, jump on over to the TC website, and you'll be able to download the firmware.
Yeah, super easy. Just click
free.
it. You hold down the channel switch, plug it all in, and then off you go.
Cool. So let's just hear what something like that might sound like with a bit of drive into it.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. Improved.
Again, if you were to jump the 2 channels and really crank everything out of here, you're going to get something perhaps more like Cream-esque. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, try it.
What is... Wee. I like that.
It's a much fuzzier, I guess, emulating more the whole beast overdriving rather than lots of preamp gain. Yeah. Boost.
That's such an underrated lick, that.
There we go. So that's the
I like this
Jim's 45. Is there anything else you want to hear? Should we just quickly hear it in the Katana?
Let's do that.
Why not?
Again, there's a little Deluxe, isn't it? Have we got the clean channel? Green channel. That's much better. Nice.
There is I haven't said this throughout the video, but this applies to all 6. There is a mode that you can switch these to so that the channel switch becomes an on and off switch rather than a green to red thing. So if you did want to use this as almost like a traditional drive pedal into your amplifier, it is possible to kind of have it in like an on and off mode.
If you use the direct out into your amp, and you have to go straight into your amp with it. That's not what these are for.
I'm not massively convinced that that's necessarily a feature many people will use, but it is there. Anyway, finished, done?
Danish.
Yes, thought you were. Okay, penultimate one now, the DC30, inspired by a mid-60s Vox AC30 top boost. The cabinet emulated output is using a Celestion 212 Alnico Blue cab simulation. Again, cab simulation's been updated in the firmware to just sort of round it off a little bit, make it a bit smoother sounding. I think the pedal name is, I don't know, is it misleading a bit? I don't know, because there was a matchless amplifier called the DC30 that came out in the 90s that was like an AC30 on steroids, really. Yeah. I don't know, that there's no mention of that in the specs. I think it is just more based on an AC30. Same idea, green and a red channel, more gain on the red channel. Boost, is the boost Right, on this particular one, the boost actually, the amount of boost is controlled by the control at the back here. We've got it about halfway up. So let's have a little listen to our DC theory.
Definitely helped with that update, hasn't it?
Massively.
That's the good thing about this stuff, that it can get better as time goes along, I'm
going to just turn the gain down a bit here. I almost think sort of like, if you think about those classic mid-60s Vox users, you'd be talking about the Beatles, I guess, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And maybe from the slightly couple of years earlier, maybe the Shadows. None of them are less about the gain. It was more the sort of when Brian May started cranking them and other sort of rock bands, Rory Gallagher, all that kind of stuff. You heard those sort of like gainy things going. But so let's just stay as clean as we can on the grain channel.
In the middle position.
I always think Vox, whether it's a combination of the EL84s or the Alnico speakers or whatever, has a very different bass end to anything Marshall or Fender ever really produced. Okay, let's see what happens on our red channel if we gain it up a bit.
Oh, too much gain.
Not too much.
I can feel it. It's got it's got that nasally, voxy. The thing that most people don't know what a Vox amp actually sounds like. Cranked.
I think cranked. It was so heavily compressed, like the amp going like but yeah, it's a sound, isn't it?
It's breaking. It's like a pig.
I don't know that anyone would use a tube screamer into. Boost?
Most?
Can I just congratulate you as well? That is the first time we've ever done anything that's Vox inspired without playing some Keith Scott, Bryan Adams riffs. So congratulations. No, I'm unplugging it.
Oh,
it's too late
we need to go in here.
Damn you. Okay, yeah, go on, let's have a quick listen through the Katana.
I think we have to remember not to use too much gain in these things, maybe speakers in here takes it better, but I had to. I love this guitar, man. It's so good. By the way, there's some of these made-to-measure guitars at the moment in the shop, so you can actually buy an official copy of this guitar. I just feel like it's
official? I don't know.
It's just butter.
It's a good guitar.
You won't believe it's not butter.
Right, last one. Okay, now the Combo Deluxe 65 has so far been the most popular one, and I'm kind of not surprised.
I'm not surprised.
Because I think there's a big market for this kind of pedal to use it as a pedal platform. So maybe you've got all your favorite overdrive pedals and modulation and stuff like that, and you just want to be able to put some headphones in at the end of it, or just do some simple recording with it, and maybe plugins and stuff isn't your thing. So the Combo Deluxe has got a lovely clean sound, and the firmware update on this has increased the headroom of that clean sound. So I think when we played this first, I'm pretty sure we even said it in the video, but it started to overdrive much earlier than you would normally expect something like a Deluxe 65 to overdrive. So they've given it more headroom, they've changed the IR, or improved the IR again. It's a Celestion 12-inch G12M creamback simulation. So actually it's not necessarily the speaker that would have been in this originally, but that's of course all of these are, oh yes, I'll do that in a second. But that's of course because all of these have got official Celestion IRs in them, and of course an original 1965 Fender wouldn't have had Celestions in it. But
it's still the best speaker, man. I love that speaker.
So Pete's absolutely right. We can turn off our Hall of Fame reverb now, because we've got reverb built into the AmpWorx pedal, which I can switch on and off from here. So
nice spring.
Now let's see, at what point do we start getting gain now? Yeah, I mean on the green channel we're really not getting any gain until we're up to like 8
and you shouldn't
on the gain,
really, you shouldn't.
I agree. So on the red channel, let's have a look. The gain comes in about 5. I think that's much more authentic. Anyway.
Ooh, careful with that word. And is there, but has that kind of amp, has that got a gain channel?
Well, only by, I mean, if you think about some of those, I'm thinking of people like sort of Larry Carlton had some of that sort of Steely Dan stuff. It was a gainy sound, and it was a Fender amp cranked. They don't have a master volume. You're absolutely right. So you can't. It's not like
you just have to
have to crank it.
Yeah. I mean, it's much better. All the blue slicks, man. Oh, hey!
I was playing around with this on my in my office desktop sort of speakers the other day with the 3 old ones, but after they just released the firmware upgrade, and I could really see. I was thinking I might even just keep this in my office, and just because I'm using at the moment a valve amp into a 2 notes Captor X, which is fine. It sounds great, but I'm half of me wonders whether or not it's just overkill for what I
that's all
want
you
to do.
need, really, isn't it?
Is he going? It's just because it's affordable, and actually I've got a few pedals on the floor, and that's kind of what I'm used to. And anyway, let's have a little look on the red channel.
It's got a nice reverb in it. I like the reverb. It's like it's drippy. Okay, so that
I'm not a big driven Fender amp overdrive fan, but some of you will be.
That's kind of the sound, isn't it? Throw that little thing on top of it, that's it.
Steve Lukather, I'm sure in the interview that he did, I don't know if it was with Rick Beato who it was with, but
that was Van Halen, wasn't it?
Well, Van Halen did
the solo.
Lukather did some of the guitar parts, and
he was
Van Halen did the sort of famous solo, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I think there is a solo on that tune that is Lukather. But I'm sure
which is your favourite guitar player?
Steve
Lukather.
Steve Lukather. Well,
he's the ultimate guitar player.
I think he's the ultimate guitar player.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
cool.
I think you have to acknowledge
he's an amazing player.
What players like Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen did in terms of breaking down barriers and doing new stuff. But if you just went, if you could just have one guitar player in the world to just listen to forever of any style of music that he cares to throw his hand at, I think Luke is the one, isn't he?
He is.
There we go.
You were talking about the video solo.
Only because I'm sure Luke played it was either a Princeton or a Deluxe or something like that, and it was just cranked up.
It.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, we'll finish by hearing this pedal into the Katana. That's it. We probably don't even need to speak. Pete can just play out on this. These are all for sale. They are £129, I think. Links are below. Runs off a normal 300 volt. 300 volt, that would be enormous.
300 volts.
300 milliamp, 9 volt.
1.21 gigawatts.
Power supply.
Can you imagine? Back to
there you go.
And if you want to watch the original video we've done to maybe do a similar...
we might have dived a bit more into the spec on the original video. But yes, sound-wise, this video supersedes that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Love you loads. Bye. Have a bit more reverb, Lee, please. Too much reverb now, yes, but you know. It doesn't do anything when you shake neck.